We've got some massive Star Wars news to talk about, and I'm going to go into a leak that I teased a few weeks ago. That and more in today's video. Hey guys, this is Justin. Hello, and welcome to another video. Hope everyone is doing super well. So we got the news today that Star Wars will be theatrically re-releasing A New Hope for its 50th anniversary in 2027. 50 years of Star Wars is going to be very exciting, of course. What's also fun is that this comes out right before Star Wars Starfighter is scheduled to release, so hopefully they do some smart cross-marketing there. I think Starfighter could be really huge if they play it right. But there are also a lot of questions. What version of A New Hope are we getting? Is it the original theatrical cut, the special editions? Honestly, we don't really know. StarWars.com simply says it's a re-release of the 1977 classic. We do know they recently did an original theatrical cut for a limited showing, so it's possible. I, however, think, for reasons I'll get into in just a second, that this may very well be the special edition. So I've been a little unsure about whether I want to talk about this or not, but I kind of blew the lid on this a couple of weeks ago on Twitter, and some other people have picked it up, so I'll talk about it. Whether this is the original release or not, I can say with near certainty that Disney and Lucasfilm right now are working on a restored theatrical version of A New Hope. The reason why I've been, hesitant to talk about this is because how the information found its way to me. Basically, the short of it is, I was contacted by an individual who had proof that restored versions of the original trilogy were being worked on. And this wasn't a he said, she said thing. This wasn't secondhand information. I don't want to go fully into how this came to me because honestly, I don't want the worker to get in trouble. But in short, there was an automated process the workers were using to share the clips, which accidentally became public in a very, very limited way. However, some people have been able to watch the progress, and it's indisputable that they're working on an ultimate theatrical cut of Star Wars. I'll get back to that in just a second, more details about the leak and whatnot, and what that version will look like. However, I'll also say it's possible this is the version which will be in theaters in 2027, but also maybe not. Based on some of the information, it seems like the project is meant to release alongside documentaries and other bits of media. Either way, it is happening. Again, I can't go into the exact details. Hopefully, I've painted a picture without exposing the individual to liability, but I not only relied on testimony, I actually saw the way it was being leaked. I saw it firsthand as well. So what does this new/old version of Star Wars look like? Well, it's an extensive recreation of the original trilogy in a way that only Lucasfilm could do. I've actually seen some footage. It looks incredible. The colors, the vibrancy. I will put a couple of screen grabs on screen here. I'm, again, being careful because some of this comes alongside what could be proprietary information. I don't want to get anyone's job in trouble. But just seeing these images, and keep in mind, these were screenshots from a highly compressed YouTube video, I could tell right away that this was real. Anyway, we've also learned some detail on the recreation. The goal is to make as much as possible an extremely high quality and accurate version of Star Wars as it first appeared in 1977. This includes preserving things like film grain, while also fixing a lot of the coloring issues that were present, especially in the home media releases. The closest thing you could say to actual change being made is apparently for a few audio lines, they actually found different takes, which sounded better because A New Hope especially does have some audio issues. So that would be, I guess, one of the main improvements and distinctions from the original version. Anyway, I really am sorry that I'm being cagey here. I know it's frustrating. I hate when people say, oh, I've got a big secret, but I can't share it with you. I promise that's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm just trying to handle this with kid gloves. I don't want to hurt the project. I don't want to hurt anyone's job, but this news has also gotten out there through other means. It was a relatively small group and it was confined to that group, but other people have been talking about it. So I think there's a responsible way to kind of disclose the news rather than what could have happened. I'll just say that. Anyway, that's really all I have on that. I will say I will be seated for the film. I will be taking my kids. I'm super excited, honestly. I really am. Before I end this video, however, I will do a couple of hashtag Ask X because this was a shorter one. All right, first of all, I like this question by James Court, who says, could ion cannons take out planetary shields? And I suppose so. Ion cannons are most effective at disabling electronics. So if you think about it, an ion cannon on a planetary shield generator could work really well. And in fact, as Thrawn explains, one of the difficulties in sieging a planet with the planetary shield is that the shield itself is one of the planet's biggest assets, but typically the only way you can get through a planetary shield is by destroying the generator, whether through sustained bombardment or the insertion of a special forces team before the shield goes down. So one of the shitty parts is, yeah, you've taken the planet, but you've also destroyed one of the key bits of infrastructure. Maybe ion weapons could help with that, but against the shield itself, really the only way to get through a shield is through an extreme amount of energy, whether that's in the form of blasters, a massive object, whatever. So I don't see ion cannons really being more effective at that. Our final question today comes from DMB Lon, who says, lore aside, have you ever played the Old Republic MMO? If so, what was your take on the game as a part of the Star Wars universe? I will say I am not a massive MMO guy. I just don't have the time to give to those games. I think if I had played MMOs when I was younger, especially Star Wars Galaxies, maybe we'd have a different story here, but it was hard to get my parents to sign off on any game, let alone one with a subscription service. We did stream it a few times. I made a character called Tall Man, and it was pretty cool. I got recognized in the server, so people were following me around and giving me gifts and mounts and stuff. It was one of my cooler gaming experiences. The game itself didn't really appeal to me. Again, there's nothing against the game, just kind of my preferences, but it was a really cool experience. And I've got no problem with the Old Republic as it exists in the lore. I think my main problem with that era is we've got too much. The Sith disappear, then they come back, they face off against the Jedi, but that's not really a problem of the game. I would have preferred the story of KOTOR 1 and 2 to have been continued in KOTOR 3, but again, you can't really blame the Old Republic for that, and obviously the game has been tremendously successful. It's really the only remaining part of Star Wars Legends, and I do love using the high-rendered trailers in my videos. But that's all I've got. Thanks for watching, guys. See you later.